KWT slaying.
Salama family, Salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Let's tell you, say hi to fam.
Greetings, family. Shabbat Shalom.
So, family, we're going to talk about the war in the Middle East. We're going to talk about what we think is happening, both my view and Mr. Tayu's view on what we think is happening. I've said for a long time that I think a lot of this stuff is scripted. And we're being led down into a plan. And to me, I think it's a bit obvious, and we're going to talk about some of that. Anything you want to say before we get started, Mr. Tate?
I know. Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to talk right now about what's going on in the Middle East. All right. IDF first major operation, Israeli ground forces enter North and Central Gaza. Fierce fighting with Hamas, 150 targets hit. Heavy fighting is taking place between Israeli forces and Hamas fighters in central and northern Gaza. Israelis and Palestinians are reportedly fighting in the area near Beth Hanun and east of Maghazi in central Gaza. Gunfire, tanks, artillery, and airstrikes are heard. According to reports, Israeli troops remain in Gaza until now. 11 hours since thousands of Israeli soldiers, as well as hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles, crossed the border fence last night in northern Gaza. It appears that the Israeli attack took place in 3 areas in northern Gaza. Fighting between IDF and Hamas fighters north of El Bureji and possibly near Beit Hanun continues, according to local reports. There are clashes in the Bureji, Jural, Dik, Biet, whatever areas, whatever. IDF releases footage of forces operating in Gaza Strip overnight this morning. All right, so let's look at that, right? So there's some tanks, Israeli tanks. Now, all of this for Hamas, right? And remember, the U.S. has their ships and everything down there. All right, let me show you something else right quick. Israel levels Gaza with bunker buster bombs, heaviest bombardment since war began. Hamas rocket storm. Okay. So the question is, what is the purpose of all of this? I'm going to go to another website, and we're going to talk about what's happening in Gaza. This is Hal Turner. His information is pretty decent. I don't like him as a person. He's a racist, straight up, simple and plain. But anyway, Gaza, open slaughterhouse, one gigantic satanic sacrifice. After Israel commenced what it calls an expanded ground operation in the Gaza Strip yesterday, daylight is showing the horrifying results. Social media is ablaze with information and video. You know what? Parts are everywhere and airstrikes. We begin with 21 brief seconds of before and after video showing vast entire neighborhoods of Gaza obliterated by Israeli airstrikes. All right. So here's pictures, right? So it says Gaza looks like a wasteland from the space in these before and after photos. Before, after. The below image was Bet Hanun prior to today's bombardment. There's ongoing clashes right now in Bet Hanun. We have a source on stage telling us on stage now that Bet Hanun has been. All right. So we're gonna just scroll down here. All right. I'm not gonna show too many videos, not right now, because we got others we're gonna talk about. All right. So y'all see all this fighting going on, right? In the tanks, we showed that, right? Now, of course, the U.S. and Christendom supports Israel, and then you got another side supporting Palestinians. I believe most Israelites are neutral on the thing. All right. So, any comment before I continue, Mr. Taylor?
No, I'm gonna try to stay out of trouble when I comment, but let's go.
All right. So here's a part of Canadian Prepper that I want to show you, because listen to what he said, because as I mentioned before, I believe a lot of this stuff is scripted. And I believe it's scripted at the highest level, right? I believe those that is, sort of like, it could be like from generals on down that don't understand what's happening, but
Yeah, I would say at a Freemasonic level, right, on both sides, it's scripted like that. It's organized at that level, on a Freemasonic level, not on an individual citizen level.
Yeah, so everyone else think they're fighting for freedom and all this stuff, food, I ain't gonna get into details of that, but a lot of people deceived, and a lot of Christians are deceived, and some Israelites are deceived, because it just amazes me what some of you all believe concerning eschatology, and it's because of your lack of understanding of what the Bible teaches, assuming you believe the scriptures, mind you. And what we have here is, well, before I get into that, let's listen to the Canadian Prepper.
Why is it that the leader of Hamas, like the top dog, is up in some high-rise building in Qatar right now, calling the shots, riling up the Muslim world? And guess what else is in Qatar? The largest U.S. military base in the Middle East with 11,000 troops. You can look at this thing from a satellite. It is massive, okay? It's a massive military base. They're now going to be deploying THAAD missile defense. All of this stuff, well, just down the street, the main antagonist, according to us anyways, in this whole thing is drinking margaritas, okay? The head of this terrorist organization. So that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? But we're not going to think too much, because we know what happens when we think. Then that's when the thought police come in. But, that's just something for you to think about, because I tell you, there's some weird stuff going on. Some weird stuff. And somebody's getting thrown under the bus here. I don't know who it is quite yet. But every single military in the region right now is poised for action.
All right, so you heard that one of the Hamas leaders is in Qatar, and Qatar has a huge U.S. base there. And he's like, well, what is he doing there, right? Ernest Higgs, let me know what you mean by Rumble. I mean, from what I understand, Rumble's streaming right now. So if y'all can't hear or something, let me know. So I don't understand what your statement. But Hamas is leader is in Qatar. There's a huge U.S. base there, 11,000. So how come he's there? That's what he's saying, right? Let's listen to a little bit more what he said.
Iran is going to be conducting major exercises. Egypt conducting massive military exercises. Lebanon, still level 4 travel advisory. But guess what? Israel, not a level 4 travel advisory yet. What? Not a level 4 travel? When you have rockets literally falling in different parts of Tel Aviv on a daily basis, and you're telling me that that's still okay to go there? And there's no mass evacuation, even in the West Bank, where there's fighting right now. There's actual fighting. One of the largest convoys of military vehicles went in there in the last 12 hours, and it's still not a level 4 travel advisory by the State Department. Why do you think that is? It's because they're trying to manage the panic. It's the exact same shit that happened before the war in Ukraine started.
All right, so you see a lot of the same stuff happening, right? The the manipulation of the media, the things that don't make sense, like, you know, this Hamas leader being in Qatar, which U.S. has a huge base, so Qatar is a U.S. ally, but yet he was walking around freely in Qatar and meeting and drinking tea. These are the type of things you have to ask yourself, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? It doesn't make any sense. So the question you would have to ask yourself, you know, is all of this scripted? And we're convinced, you know, that it is scripted. Minister, tell you any comment?
Yeah, I would say they're running game on us. And I mean, one evidence, Minister Jacoby, I sent you that video that I sent a couple of days back, where you can look at the collapse of the building. Looks like 911, Gaza. You know, it looks like demolition again, right? If you want to share that, just show.
I don't see a link.
It's okay. Give me a second. Well, check your Facebook.
Put it in private chat.
Okay. Yeah, I'm logged in on a different account. I have to switch.
All right, let me go get it. I'll go get it. I don't see the link anywhere. I see the high rise one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Let me share this right quick, fam. Let's do this. Okay. Hold on. Let me start over. This new browser thing, they be moving the images and stuff. Hold on.
Yeah, go full screen. Yeah. Reminds you of 911. Bunker busters can't make a building fall on its own footprint.
Yeah, that's demolition. All right, so Minister, tell you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I mean, for common sense people, that is pure demolition, right? Missiles, bunker busters will make that building fall and collapse all over the place, but not in its own footprint, top to bottom, right?
Yeah, and the camera was waiting there just to film it up.
There you go. The camera's positioned for that shot. This is how they run game on us, because what's coming is, well, their goal, put it that way, is a restructuring of the world's society. I mean, those in America who are accustomed to this lifestyle, they have every intention of changing that, right? Now, the Most High has his own plan. According to Scripture, we're going home. But regardless what their intention is, everything you know today is going to be changed, and they want to put it under one authority.
Yeah, so the world is being played. There's a script that's been written, that's being followed, and most of y'all falling for it, right? Maybe not the ones who listen to this channel, but all others, they're all falling for it. Christians waiting for the rapture, Christians supporting, people regardless of what they do, the catastrophes and the chaos that they cause. And then, you have the other side, who are victims, and, they are all pawns in the game.
What irritates me is how the victims always got to turn the other cheek. The victims got to forget about the past. The victims got to accept the perpetrators. Once the perpetrators achieve their objective, you got to forget about all your ancestors and relatives they took out years earlier, right? You know, they be running mind games on everybody, right? And I mean, that's what we're seeing over there. That's what we saw in South Africa, you know, when the Dutch came in with colonial apartheid. That's what we see in America, where our people are supposed to forget all the things that happened to us, while those people tell us never forget, even though our body count 100 times higher than theirs. I'm like, come on now.
So we're going to talk about eschatology, and we're going to talk about, you know, well, we've already talked about what Theo believes. And if some of you all want to get a better understanding of what we believe, go watch our end time prophecy videos, go watch the War Scrolls, things like that. That'll give you a better understanding, because some of y'all are just not going to get it. Well, what about this? What about that? You know, and, you know, we didn't explain it 100 times. And so, you know, you have people that believe that little dirt out in the Middle East is our land, right? It's not our land. It don't fit the prophecies, and it definitely don't fit the description of what the Bible says Jerusalem would be, let alone just think about it. Like I said before, y'all didn't think we didn't move across the street from Egypt after we ran away from Egypt. I'm sorry. Some of y'all need to wake up. Y'all need to wake up from the dream of Eurocentric Christianity, right? They didn't went around in a circle, then cross the Red Sea just to move across the street from Egypt. Come on. I mean, that alone should change your mind. If you thought the Middle East was our land, that should be enough to change your mind. I'm sorry.
If it were possible to deceive the very elect, who's the elect? You all. So they running game that almost had you confused if the Most High didn't wake you up.
So here's the thing. What's happening right now, as I mentioned, is a script to bring about a end time prophecy result, and to bring about a end time Gentile ruled world order, right? Not a Israelite ruled world order. So that should help you a lot as well. That we know from the scriptures that Israel is going to rule. So how is everything that's happening is bringing together a unified Gentile world order? Okay. So, you know, and other people, you know, they're waiting for the Antichrist. You know, I'm not saying the Antichrist ain't going to come. I believe that the Antichrist is a spirit that possesses people, but, you know, who knows how it's going to play out? You know, it could be anything, right? That's just my understanding, right? Apollyon sitting in the abyss. But we're going to talk about the script, and the script is being designed based upon Christian eschatology and Islamic eschatology. And that's where a lot of people are going to be confused, because you're going to have a blend of both of these stories being told in the media so that they could bring together this new world order. And Christians are involved in the lie, just like they were during the time of the lollipop, right? All these churches that were involved in telling you to get your lollipop. The lollipop tastes real good. Here, take a lollipop. So go on the lollipop. It's good for your health. It's going
and win millions in a raffle.
Yeah, and win millions. Oh, and let's not forget the free hamburgers. Okay, I'm just saying, you know, it's like, y'all need to make these other people stand up and deal with the confusion in their eschatology, right? There's a bunch of things that don't add up in their eschatology. So we try to answer them all. So you got the 4 views of end times for Christians, right? For 2,000 years, Christians have tried to piece together what the Bible says about the end. A wide swath of orthodox interpretations are possible, and it's easy to get confused by the different terms people use. There are 4 main eschatological views, and each proposes a different take on 3 key aspects of the end of the world: the millennium, the binding of Satan, and the relationship between Israel and the church. In the excerpt below, adapted from Jesus Wins, Dayton Hartman makes sense of each one. Amillennialism. Amillennialism's name is a clear giveaway to its defining mark. Amillennialism literally means there is no literal, open, visible, thousand-year reign of Christ on earth. Instead, the reign of Christ is understood in a fundamentally different way. Amillennialism does not have a specific antichrist, as advocated in something like the Left Behind series. However, there may be a man of sin who could fit some kind of antichrist definition or archetype in the modern understanding of the term. All right. So you got people who are amillennialists. Let's continue. Amillennial thinkers note rightly that the 1,000-year language describing the millennial period in Revelation 20 can be taken figuratively. So the 1,000-year period isn't a specific 1,000-year cycle on the actual calendar. Instead, with his resurrection and ascension, Christ began his reign. He presently rules on earth, the millennial age, through his people, and he will return physically at any moment to usher in on the earth. Now, all of these concepts that we're going to talk about, the Christian church believe, is referencing Christians, right? Christians then replace Israel. Israel don't exist no more, and it's only the church, right? All right, the role of Satan. Satan's influence has been diminished because he has been bound by Christ. Satan himself is not presently exerting influence over the world. Now, I ain't gonna even talk about how stupid this concept is. But anyway, you got some people who are amillennials. Israel and the church. There is not a stark contrast between Israel and the church. Rather, the church is spiritual Israel because Christ is true Israel. This does not mean that the church has replaced Israel, but instead that the church is the fulfillment of God's promises to Abraham that his offspring, Jesus, will bless all nations, people, and groups. Another Christian who don't read the scriptures, right? Postmillennialism. Early in American history, postmillennialism was in some sense an American eschatology. Postmillennialism is a difficult system to quantify, at least in part because postmillennial thinkers tend to disagree about the details. We will take a look at the broad points of agreement here. The reign of Christ. Postmillennialists differ as to whether the reign of Christ is 1,000 years or simply a long period of time. At its core, the distinctive of postmillennial thought is the ever-expanding progress of the gospel until the world becomes markedly Christian. Then Christ returns. The millennial age is ushered in by the unrelenting advance of the gospel. There is no definitive position on the role of Satan within postmillennial thought. Some postmillennial theologians argue that Satan was bound by Jesus, similar to millennialism, while others would argue it remains a future event in agreement with premillennialism. Israel and the church. The postmillennial position agrees with amillennialists. The church is the fulfillment of Israel. The church is spiritual Israel. Now, this is the typical Christian theology right here, right? Israel don't matter no more. The true Israel is the church. Foolishness, just downright foolishness. They can't support that. And I ask you, Christians, y'all want to debate that? Come on, try and do it, because it's foolishness. It's just straight up foolishness. And then y'all have to ignore so many scriptures to come to a conclusion that the church has replaced Israel. Even Paul says that the church ain't replaced Israel. God ain't done with Israel yet. Y'all read that all the time. But anyway, let's continue. Premillennialism. Premillennialism is often assumed to be the default view of Christians in America. This is understandable. It is presently the most common view of eschatology held by American evangelicals. While evangelicals are most familiar with the primary framework of premillennial thought, many are unaware that premillennialism has two major divisions: historic premillennialism, the traditional form often called simply premillennialism, and dispensational premillennialism, usually called dispensationalism. Historic premillennialism, the reign of Christ. Christ will return physically and visibly in order to usher in the millennial reign. But historic premillennialists disagree whether the reign of Christ will be a literal 1,000 years or just a long period of time. The role of Satan. Satan is currently at work in the world, influencing affairs and deceiving the nations at the return of Christ. Satan will be bound for the duration of the millennial age. Historic premillennialism proposes that the church is the spiritual fulfillment of Israel in a manner that is very similar to amillennialism. I'm tired of saying millennialism and postmillennialism. That's too much on my tongue. Let's continue. Okay, dispensationalism. the reign of Christ. For most dispensationalists, the millennial reign of Christ will begin after his return at the end of a distinct 7-year period known as the tribulation. Now, see that part right there. Take note right there, because I'm going to talk about that. The 7-year period of tribulation. That a lot of y'all still believe that. A lot of y'all hold fast to that, right? A lot of y'all still got a lot of the Christian theology in your head. Why? Because some of your mores is teaching that foolishness. The millennial reign of Christ begins at the third coming of Christ. Dispensationalists propose a secret rapture concept in which Christ returns midway through the tribulation period to remove the church from their, can we say, left behind series. The role of Satan, like historic premillennialism, dispensationalism argues that Satan is actively at work to resist the church and undermine God's people. Anyway, he will be bound for a duration of the millennium and only released for a final confrontation following his 1,000-year captivity. Now, the question is, why did I go through this? The reason I went through this is because what the New World Order is doing, or the globalists, or the bankers, or the Luciferians, whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, they're following the script of two belief systems. They're following, because, you know, the Islamic belief system is also based upon Catholicism and Christianity, right? Because the Islamic believe, you know, state to believe some parts of the scriptures or the Bible, what we call the scriptures, right? So when we look at dispensationalism, they're following parts of dispensational theology, and rolled up in, as you saw, dispensationalist theology is the idea of post-millennial, amillennialists, right? The whole idea that the church has replaced Israel. But then you got the right-wing Christians that believe Israel is still important and Israel is in their land and that Israel is fulfilling Bible prophecy, otherwise known as them folks, right? So they've created, let's say, a script that adheres to Christian theology and also Islamic. And we're going to talk about that.
So, Minister Yacoba.
Yeah.
I want to add a fifth one to the list.
Okay.
It's called Israel-centric eschatology, right? And you could say that's how we see end times, right? And I don't know if Minister Yacoba saw this. I posted this right before the show started. I'm going to read it to you guys, right? In the Bible, there is an overarching narrative of covenant, captivity, and divine retribution, which spans both the Old and New Testament. These themes focus on God's relationship with Israel. The Bible portrays God as a covenant maker who has selected Israel as his special people. The purpose is to show the world who the one true God is through his dealings with them. The commitment to Israel isn't limited to the Old Testament, but continues into the New Testament, particularly in books like Revelation. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, in the book of Revelation is generally interpreted as a symbolic embodiment of a corrupt, oppressive system that holds God's people captive in the end times. This captivity isn't just physical, but spiritual and economic, mirroring the kinds of oppression and subjugation that Israel has faced throughout its history. The book of Revelation aligns with prophetic texts like Joel 3, which describes the day of the Lord, a time when God will enact judgment on the nations that have oppressed his people. Joel 3 speaks of God gathering all nations for judgment for scattering Israel and dividing God's land. This reflects God's promise to take action on behalf of his chosen people, consistent with the theme of divine retribution found in Revelation. God's commitment to keeping his promises is highlighted by his assurances to Israel that he will redeem them from their oppressors in the last days. Israel is waiting for this redemption, looking forward to being freed from the entities that hold them captive, whether symbolized by Mystery Babylon or other oppressive systems. In the context of Psalm 83, the Bible describes a group of nations that are united in their opposition to God and his people. This confederation is seen as a precursor or parallel to the worldwide captivity described in other prophetic texts. The nations conspire to wipe out Israel so that its name will no longer be remembered. This adds another layer to the idea of a concerted, organized effort against God's covenant people, aligning well with the themes of oppression and divine retribution found throughout the Bible. To sum it up, the biblical narrative from its beginning in Genesis to its culmination in Revelation consistently depicts God as a covenant maker who has chosen Israel to reveal his divine nature to the world. God promises to deliver Israel from their enemies and to exact justice on those who harm them. These themes are reinforced and expanded upon in prophetic texts and find their ultimate expression in the New Testament's depiction of end-time events, where God ultimately vindicates his people and establishes his eternal justice.
So, Minister, tell you, where were you reading that from?
That's what I put together, and I shared it in the community.
Okay. Can you put it on the TAIL website so people could get to that?
Sure.
And so what did you refer to that as? Israelism?
Israel-centric eschatology.
I like that. Israel-centric eschatology. I like that. Yeah. So Minister Taylor gonna put that. That's something he wrote, and he's gonna put that at tailministries.com if y'all want to read it. And that is the viewpoint that we go by. Israelite-centric eschatology, right? And so what's happening now is the script that has been written by the elite is one that adheres to all of these Christian eschatology ideas, right? More so to dispensationalism. Now, notice that they said for the dispensationalists, a 7-year period. Now, some of you all still believe that. Some of you all believe there's going to be a 7-year period of tribulation. The Bible don't teach that. I'm sorry. You know, if you still believe that, you deceive, right? The Bible don't teach a 7-year period. Daniel 9:27 does not teach a 7-year period of tribulation. Okay, if y'all don't understand that, go watch our end time prophecy video. So, but they, the elite, the Illuminati, know that Christians believe in a 7-year period of tribulation. Now, some of what I'm gonna talk about right now is theoretical. Okay, my opinion. And so, I don't know if it's gonna play out this way or not, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is that they are playing this whole dispensationalist theology, a 7-year period of tribulation, which means if I'm correct, and I'm not saying I am, more than likely we're going to war this year or sometime in the beginning of 2024, which will lead into 2030, right? So the whole finality of the return of this quote unquote Messiah figure will culminate at the end of 2030, which will line up with the sustainable development goals of 2030, right? Which will align with the new world order system, with the chip implant market beast. The whole thing is supposed to be in place by then, right? And CBDC, digital currencies, all this stuff. And I believe that's what's happening, right? It's order out of chaos. And so in order for them to reach their timeline, they have to paint a scenario in your mind. And not only do Christians, right? Because here's the thing. Christians told you take the lollipop. Muslims told you take the lollipop. Israelites told you take the lollipop. Some of y'all gonna believe what you want. Y'all gonna be deceived. And that's just the way it is. Everybody don't have the spirit of discernment, right? They don't. It's obvious. And some people don't have common sense because common sense ain't common. Not for everybody. I'm sorry. But what they're doing is they're painting a scenario that they have indoctrinated the world with, right? Over at least the last 100 years, right? Which is this whole premillennialist, dispensationalist view of theology, right? Or eschatology. And so what they want you to believe, which is why this particular war is in the Middle East now, because everything is coming to full fruition, because you're supposed to believe that Israel is going to be surrounded. And Israel's is going to their existence is going to be at stake. And the ones who's behind this is Russia. Why? Because they want you to believe this is the Gog and Magog war. Some Christians want you to believe it's the Gog and Magog war. Some Muslims want you to believe this is the Gog and Magog war. And some Israelites want you to believe this is the Gog and Magog war. I told you, I don't trust most of these people. Some of these people who still believe this Christian eschatology, I'm sorry. I mean, you don't read the word or you're compromised. I don't know which one, right? But they want you to believe this is the Gog and Magog war. All right, so let's look at this right quick. This Wikipedia. You don't like Wikipedia, then I don't care. All right, so for the Gog and Magog statues in London, Gog and Magog, Cornelius, for the ancient oak trees of the same name. Skip. All right, Gog and Magog, Romanized Gog, Magog, Yajuj, and Majuj, Arabic. Romanized Yajuj, Majuj, or a pair of names that appear in the Bible and the Quran, variously ascribed to individuals, tribes, or lands. In Ezekiel 38, Gog is an individual and Magog is his land. By the time of the New Testament's Revelation 20, verse 8, Jewish tradition had long since changed Ezekiel's Gog from Magog into Gog and Magog. The Gog prophecy is meant to be fulfilled at the approach of what is called the end of days. This is what they want you to believe, right? I'm not saying we're not in the end of days. I believe that. But the timing. But not necessarily end of the world. Jewish eschatology viewed Gog and Magog as enemies to be defeated by the Messiah, which would usher in the age of the Messiah. One view within Christianity is more starkly apocalyptic, making Gog and Magog here indicating nations rather than individuals, allies of Satan against God at the end of the millennium, as described in the book of Revelation. So think of this whole idea here is that they want you to believe this is the Gog and Magog war, so that when all of the chaos happened and all of the people die and a nuke or two gets set off, right? You're going to believe this is Armageddon and this new Messiah figure, whether it's going to be a human or a system, I don't know yet, right? Whether it be a human or a system, they're going to bring in this new system of world order and peace, which is going to be totalitarianism, which is going to be control, which is going to be chip implants, which is going to be global tracking by satellites and drones and robots. AI is a trip. I ain't gonna lie. AI is a trip. AI is perfectly set for this whole end time scenario, and they're gonna bring in this millennial reign, right? This false millennial reign with AI. I wouldn't be surprised aliens involved. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know. We gonna see. They're gonna bring in this whole new system of this global New World Order, technocratic wonder world, right? And so, like the video I showed you that time of these people over in the Middle East, where they were talking about how the world is going to be. Do y'all remember that one? Where they showed where you can go into this chamber if you need healing, and AI will scan your body and see what's wrong with you and manipulate your DNA and heal you, right? This is what they're going in, and they're going to claim that this new technological age is the age of Christ, is the age of the Messiah, where the whole world going to be at peace. And guess who's going to be the ones on the out? You are. Those who believe in the scriptures, those who believe in the true Messiah. A legend was attached to Gog and Magog by the time of the Roman period that the gates of Alexander were erected by Alexander the Great to repel the tribe. Romanized Jewish historian Josephus knew them as the nation descended from the Magog, the Japhite, as in Genesis, and explained them to be the Scythians. We know who the Scythians are, don't we? In the hands of early Christian writers, they became apocalyptic hordes. Throughout the Middle Ages, they were variously identified as the Vikings, Huns, the Khazars. Who's the Khazars? Interesting. Mongols, Turanians, or other nomads, or even the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The legend of Gog and Magog and the gates were also interpolated into the Alexander romances. According to one interpretation, Goth and Magati are the kings of the unclean nations who Alexander drove through a mountain pass and prevented from crossing his new wall. Gog and Magog are said to engage in human cannibalism in the romances and the derived literature. They have also been depicted as medieval cosmological maps or mappe mundi, sometimes alongside Alexander's wall. The conflation of Gog and Magog with the legend of Alexander and the Iron Gates was disseminated throughout Near East in the early centuries of the Christian Islamic era. They appear in Quran in chapter El-Kahf as Yajuj and Majuj, primitive and immoral tribes that were separated and buried off by Dahu el whatever, he of the two horns, who is mentioned in the Quran as a great righteous ruler and conqueror. Some contemporary Muslim historians and geographers regarded the Vikings as the emergence of Gog and Magog. All right, so I'm gonna skip this part. Y'all know all about Gog and Magog, 38, all that. I want to come down here to the Jewish text, and then we're gonna go further down. The book of Ezekiel records a series of visions received by the prophet Ezekiel, a priest of Solomon's temple who was among the captives during the Babylonian exile. The exile, he tells his fellow captives, is God's punishment on Israel for turning away. But God will restore his people to Jerusalem when they return to him. Now, see, that is correct, right? We're going to return to Jerusalem, and we're going to return to Yah. That's happening now. After this message of reassurance, chapters 38 through 39, the Gog oracle tell how Gog and Magog and his hordes will threaten the restored Israel. Do what? Threaten the restored Israel, but will be destroyed, after which God will establish a new temple and dwell with his people for a period of lasting peace. Now, remember, we told you the timing of Ezekiel 38 and 39 is the battle of Armageddon, but the timing of that is not now. And Ezekiel chapter 37, they always ignore. Because Ezekiel chapter 37, which is the dry bones, must occur, right? Which is the return of the Israelites back to the nations, back to their land and becoming one nation again in the land. That has to happen before Armageddon. Okay, that's scripture. And this is the problem I had with some of these Israelites, because they ignore that. It's foolishness to think this is the Gog and Magog war. It doesn't line up with scriptures. Internal evidence indicates that the Gog oracle was composed substantially later than the chapters around it of Gog allies. Meshech and Tubal were 7th century BC kingdoms in central Anatolia, north of Israel. Now, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to move on. So if you look at this ties the Gog and Magog to the whole area where Ukraine and Russia is, right? It ties Gog and Magog to that land, which ties them to the Muslims, which will tie them to being an invader of modern Israel, which is not the prophetic Gog and Magog of Ezekiel chapter 38. But this is what they want you to believe. Now, let's go down. Did you want to say something before I continue, Mr. Taylor?
No.
All right, I'm going to skip the rest of it. Y'all could go read that if you want. But I want you to see the Islamic text. 2 chapters of the Quran, El-Kahf and the El-Anbiya, discuss Gog and Magog. In the Quran, Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog, are suppressed by Dahu el-Qamnan, whatever, the two-horned one. Dahu, having journeyed to the ends of the world, meets a people who scarcely understood a word, who seek to help in building a barrier that will separate them from the people of Yajuj and Majuj, who do great mischief on earth. He agrees to build it for them, but warns that when the time comes, the last age, God will remove the barrier. The early Muslim traditions were summarized by Zakaria el-Qazwini in 2 popular works called the Cosmography and the Geography. Gog and Magog, he says, live near the sea that encircles the earth and can be counted only by God. This sea is claimed to be Caspian Sea, Black Sea, or the Sea of Azov. Now, who lives near the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Sea of Azov? Shall we say Russia? Can we say Ukraine, aka the Khazars? So you got all of the pieces that they put in place to create this false fulfillment of Ezekiel chapter 38 to bring in this false millennial reign, this time of peace. They are human, but only half the height of a normal man, with claws instead of nails, and a hairy tail and huge hairy ears, which they use as mattress and covers for sleeping. Now, according to those people in London, Gog and Magog were giants. So, I mean, this sort of ties into that, I would think. They dig into their wall each day until they almost break through. They break for the night, saying, "Tomorrow we will finish," but each night God restores it. Then one day, as they stop digging for the night, one will say, "Tomorrow we will finish, God willing." And in the morning, it is not restored as with every night. When they do break through, they will be so numerous that their vanguard is in Syria and their rear is in Khorasan. Various nations and peoples in history were identified as Yajuj and Majuj. At one point, it was the Turks who threatened Baghdad in northern Iran. Later, when the Mongols destroyed Baghdad in 1258, it was they who were Gog and Magog. The wall dividing them from the civilization was normally placed towards today's Armenia and Azerbaijan. Do y'all remember something happening with Armenia and Azerbaijan? Is Armenia and Azerbaijan fighting a war? Is Russia and Ukraine, the Khazars, fighting a war? I just wonder. But in the year 842, the Caliph el-Watiq had a dream in which he saw that it had been breached and sent an official named Salam to investigate. This may be related to Urgit Khan. Salam returned a little over 2 years later and reported that he had seen the wall and also the tower where Daoud Quran had left his building equipment. And don't beat me up for mispronunciations because I'm not Arabic, Muslim. And all was still intact. It is not entirely clear what Salam saw, but he may have reached Durban in the Caucasus. Can we say the Caucasus? Or the Jade Gate, and the westernmost customs point on the border of China. So we have Russia, we have Azerbaijan and Armenia, we have China, all in relation to Gog and Magog. Somewhat later, the 14th century traveler Ibn Battuta reported that the wall was 60 days travel from the city of Zetun, which is on the coast of China. The translator notes that Ibn Battuta has confused the Great Wall of China with that built by Daoud Quran. According to Shia sources, Yajuj and Majuj are not from the children of Adam, the human race. El-Kafi, one of their primary collections of hadith, states that it has been narrated from Ibn Abbas that when he asked Ali about the creatures, he responded by saying, God has created 1,200 species on the land, 1,200 species in the sea, 70 species from the children of Adam, and the people are the children of Adam except Yajuj and Majuj. This is in contradiction with many reports in Sunni sources, including some in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, which indicate they will indeed be from the children of Adam, and this is the belief of overwhelming majority of Islamic scholars. The Abbasid Orthodoxy believe in the Ilkhanate Mongol invaders who later sieged to then sacked Baghdad, were Gog and Magog. Okay, so I wanted to read that so you understand the Islamic view, and they believe in a Gog and Magog war. And look at, they by the Black Sea, the Azov, right? Ukraine, right? Azov, Black Sea over by Russia, Caspian, right? The whole thing is set up to modern day stuff. China's involved, right? So let's listen to this right quick. You got anything to say, Mr. T, before I continue?
No, go ahead.
It's all scripted to fulfill end time scenarios. I'm just saying, maybe nothing gonna happen, right? But most people, just like they fell for the lollipop, they're gonna fall for this. All right.
So Gog and Magog are going to be very powerful in and around the Holy Land. And part of that power will be shown in the destruction of the Arabs. The Arabs are going to be destroyed, said the Prophet ﷺ. Anuhlaku wa fina salihun, she asked, Zainab radiallahu ta'ala, will we Arabs be destroyed even though there are righteous people amongst us? He said, Na'am, indicating that this is not punishment from Allah. No. They are righteous people, and yet they're being destroyed. This is something which is occurring in the historical purpose for a specific reason, unconnected with punishment. Why will Allah allow the Arabs to be destroyed? Answer, he said to his son, Ya bunayya, inni ara fil manami anni asbahu. Oh my son, I've seen in my dream I have to sacrifice you. Fanzur maza tara. Son, how do you respond? The son responded and said, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Oh my father, go ahead, do what you've been ordered to do. They thought that it was an actual sacrifice. But Allah is a wise God. And a wise God does not order human sacrifice. No. It's incompatible with wisdom to order human sacrifice. So this dream has something else in it, this vision. Okay? When he took the knife and he was about to sacrifice his son, then Allah called out to him and said, Ya Ibrahim, O Abraham, qad sadaqta ru'ya. You have already fulfilled the vision. You have accepted the sacrifice of Ismail alayhi salam. It is that sacrifice of the seed of Ismail alayhi salam which is about to take place, concurrently with the Malhama. So Gog and Magog are going to be very powerful in and around the Holy Land. And part of that power will be shown in the destruction of the Arabs.
All right, so he believes that the Arabs are going to be destroyed, right? And if you notice what he did, and a lot of people not going to catch it, is, he then indirectly opposed the sacrifice of the Messiah for the sins of mankind. And so he also stated that the Arabs are going to be destroyed, which leaves way to what we see happening over there in Gaza, right? All of these people being taken out because that's what they expect to see. Now, what is going to happen? What is this going to lead to? It's going to be leading to a utopia, but it's going to be a secular utopia, and the denial and refusal to accept Messiah and his sacrifice for the sins of mankind. And he said a wise God would not sacrifice a human. Well, you're not God. You don't know what God requires. According to the scripts, without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins. Right? The soul that sinneth, it shall die. So if you're going to die and that's the law, how do you get out of it? Somebody got to pay the price. Right? You either going to die or somebody got to pay the price. Any comments, Mr. T?
Well, yeah, I want to read Ezekiel 38.
We're going to get there.
Okay. Well, when Minister Yacoba reads Ezekiel 38, I want you guys to take notice and look for some important signs or attributes of that event that needs to be in place for it to be Ezekiel 38, because they stand out really brightly. And I mean, these mores and these Christians, you can tell they're lying to you because there's certain things that need to be in place for this to happen. And we'll see once we get there.
So what's happening is, for those with discerning eyes and spiritual discernment, right, is the destruction of the belief system of all Abrahamic religions, right? This is the goal. And this is why what's happening now had to occur in the Middle East, right? What's happening now in the Middle East is to destroy the Abrahamic religions. Now, in terms of it being a salvific, quote unquote, idea, right? They'll let it be as a religion because they know religions are going to exist, right? But in terms of the Messiah, dying for your sins, and in terms of, Judaism, they're going to show the savagery of, quote unquote, the Ish people and them taking out the Arabs. As you heard this guy saying, Arabs are going to be destroyed, right? All Arabs aren't going to be destroyed. But the weirdness of it all is that it is fulfillment of prophecy, but it's not fulfillment of prophecy as is taught in Christianity or Islam. It's fulfillment of prophecy as God's judgment on the nations for what they've done and our deliverance, right? So, but here's the thing. It's a Luciferic agenda, and let's look at that right quick. This is what's happening, right? And this is Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini. The Illuminati planned for 3 world wars, August 15, 1871. The following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. The Pike letter to Giuseppe Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London until 1977. This letter has been claimed by many internet sites to reside in the British Library in London, which denies the letter exists. Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader in the mid-1800s, as well as the director of the Illuminati. Albert Pike, historical Masonic figure, was a 33rd degree Freemason, occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the southern jurisdiction of the Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Following are apparently extracts from the letter, showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. Now, understand this. Some people say that this letter was a fraud. Well, if it is a fraud, guess what? It's prophetic, right? If it's a fraud, then how did some of these things occur, or what looks like occurred? I'm just saying. All right. So they always say this, right? They always say this when they're.
And why was it in a museum?
Well, they denied it was in the museum, but it was. But let's continue. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agentures or agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Did that not happen? Yes or no? The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine during the Second World War. International communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Did that happen or not? The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentura of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. Is that not happening, or what? The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Did not that Arabic guy, or whatever they call him, an imam, did he not say that the Arabs would be destroyed? I'm just saying. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, is not the world divided. Whose side you on? You on the Ish people side or the Palestinian side? Is it not divided? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We will unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. And here's the thing: these guys are brilliant. They're smart. Now, that's why I believe that it's demonic. All of this is demonically written, because they understand humanity. They understand how they can manipulate humanity, how they can manipulate nations and force them into the direction that they want them to go. Just think about, let's assume for a second that this war kicks off where there's nukes flying and more people dying, and Iran gets involved, Russia, China, all of the nations, America, Israel. And guess what? If that happens, there's a whole bunch of debt, a whole bunch of people starving, right? A whole bunch of people struggling to survive and try to survive until there's order restored. Now, how do you think the world is going to feel at that point? They're going to want to overthrow all of the leaders. They're going to overthrow all of the systems to bring in a new system, where there will be no more wars, and there's going to be peace. So it's a bit obvious what they're doing. And here's the thing: whether or not something happened or not, we'll see. But all I'm saying is the pieces of the puzzle are in place. The 7 years, right? We got 7 years till 2030. 2030 is their deadline, right? We have the system in place for the mark of the beast, right? Digital currencies being implemented, right? And we have this chaotic war situation being orchestrated in the Middle East right now, where Israel decided to go into Gaza and do all of this stuff because of one little terrorist group called Hamas. And the U.S. has brought in their battle ships, brought in thousands of troops, right? Russia is on the side of the Palestinians and the Syrians and stuff. I mean, I'm just saying everything is in place for this to occur. Any comments, Mr. Tate?
Yeah, I mean, it's imagine, like I said in the beginning, American people, or really Western nations, right, including Western Europe and the United States, are stripped of their comforts. Right now, you got to hustle for food. You have to hustle for water. You have to protect yourself from predators. You're going to cry for stability to come back, and you're going to be willing to give up everything for it. You're going to give up your freedom of religion. You're going to give up your guns, and you're going to let them put in a more demonic system filled with more iniquity than we have today, just so you can get back to where you were. And what you're going to find is you're put back into the 15-minute cities. You won't own property, right? They're gonna get what they want, right? Where that universal basic income, you're gonna get that. It's gonna be AI control once they implement it back. You won't have freedom of religion. That's the plan. Now, according to scripture, though, we go home. Some kind of way we get out of here. Now, as Minister Yacoba has taught in the past, if you survive the sword, right? So you got to hold on to the promises of Yah as these things unfold. I mean, what's the likelihood after all this time, Ukraine and Russia going at it, Ukraine?
I can't hear you, Minister Taylor. Hello? We can't hear you, Minister Taylor. Can y'all hear Minister Taylor? Because I can't hear him. Give me a 1 if you can hear him too. We couldn't hear you. You went out.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now, yeah.
What did you not hear?
I don't know what I didn't hear because I ain't hear.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. I was just saying that you're going to have to survive the sword to get out of this. You know, you're going to be willing to surrender all of your liberties. You're going to accept 15-minute cities, universal basic income. But for you to get to that state, they got to strip you of everything. And I was saying, what's the odds of this new war between Israel and Palestine happening right behind Russia and Ukraine, right? And Netanyahu, instead of mourning his people, was excited, right? Because he gets to gain more territory, things like that. I'm like, what is going on here, right? Outside of a natural, organic thing between two people that don't get along. It's not organic. It's not organic. We're being herded into a goal, into a direction. We're being herded into this new world order system where you have universal basic income and 15-minute cities. That's where we're going, right? So, like I said, you didn't hear this, that you just have to rely on the promises of Yah that He's gonna bring us back home.
And see, that's the thing. All of you with your eschatological timelines always seem to ignore the fact that Israel must return home. Israel must return back to the land. See, this is all part of prophecy.
By every major prophet now. They don't talk about it, but every major prophet talks about the return of Israel in the last day.
So if your eschatology doesn't include that, you're wrong. Okay? So let's continue here, because as we see, Albert Pike had a plan, right? And that through the three world wars, they would implement the age of Lucifer. Okay. Now, what does that mean? What is going to happen in the Middle East, right? In that fake Jerusalem. I know some of y'all still believe that dirt our land. But what's going to happen in that fake Jerusalem? I told you, a fake people, a fake land, a fake Messiah. Now, this is an old article, right? 2009. Obama to internationalize Jerusalem. Likud chairman Benjamin Netanyahu, he was a MK back then, warns incoming U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will try to internationalize holy sites in Jerusalem. In my opinion, this is what's going to happen, right? Because you're going to have a world government, and Jerusalem is going to be the center of that world government. A lot of the elite have stated this, that Jerusalem would be the center of a world order. And this is what they're trying to accomplish. But you cannot accomplish this until you bring everyone to their knees and they cry out for peace and order. Okay? So let's look at the United Nations website. All right. The status of Jerusalem. As a holy city exalted through the entire history of monotheism, temporal rule over Jerusalem has been closely linked with the religious domination of Palestine. The earliest known people of Palestine were the Canaanites, among whom, according to Jewish, Christian, and Muslim tradition, Abraham came from Ur. His descendants followed Moses from captivity in Egypt, and after their return, the Jewish tribes were united in about 1000 BC under David, who conquered Jerusalem from the Jebusites. His son, the great Solomon, built the first temple of Jerusalem on Mount Moriah. Now, I'm going to say it, and y'all know my position, but I'm going to say it again. Y'all know I don't believe that's our land, right? All right, so Solomon's death was followed by the division of the kingdom into two, Israel and Judah, Jerusalem being the capital of the latter. Early in the 8th century BC, Israel was destroyed by the Assyrians, and the Israelites carried away as what? Captives. In 587 BC, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and the Temple of Solomon, carrying the inhabitants of Judah and the captivity of Babylon. After Cyrus' conquest of Babylon, the Jews returned to Palestine and rebuilt the Temple of Jerusalem circa 530 BC. All right, let me scroll down here. I don't want to read all that. Jerusalem under the British Mandate. The League of Nations mandate for Palestine, granted to Great Britain in 1922, incorporated the Balfour Declaration of 1917 and had as its principal object the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. This mandate was granted without the reference to the wishes of the people of Palestine required by the League's covenant. But since Palestine was holy to Muslims and Christians also, and since the people of Palestine were overwhelmingly Muslim and Christian Arabs, the mandate assumed full responsibility for preserving existing rights in the holy places. All right. So notice that, with Giuseppe Mazzini, that was before the establishment of Israel as a nation state, right? And so he already predicted that Israel would exist as a nation, right? So let's see. Let's go down here. The international regime for Jerusalem under the petition resolution. When the Palestine question was taken up by the UN in 1947, the country itself was ravaged by conflict. Because of its religious significance and symbolism, Jerusalem inevitably became a particular center of the convergence of the Jewish-Arab confrontation. A large number of Jewish immigrants had settled in a new expanded western sector of Jerusalem, the ancient eastern sector, including the walled city, remaining predominantly Arab. The UN Special Committee on Palestine, appointed by General Assembly to present proposals on a Palestine, estimated there are about 100,000 Jews, 105,000 Arabs in Jerusalem. Due to the special position of Jerusalem, UNSCOP unanimously recommended that the sanctity of the holy places be guaranteed by special provisions and that existing rights in Palestine be preserved. The sacred character of the holy places shall be preserved, and access to the holy places for the purposes of worship and pilgrimage shall be ensured in accordance with existing rights. Existing rights in Palestine of the several religious communities shall neither be impaired nor denied. All right, where was I? Okay, the Minority Report recommended an independent, unified federal state in Palestine, Jerusalem, which would have separated municipalities for the Arab and Jewish sectors, was to be its capital. Elaborating the unanimous recommendation cited above, the Minority Report proposed a functional form of internationalization. A functional form of internationalization. Now, notice if you listen to Putin. Putin is calling for the two-state solution. Right now, part of the two-state solution is the internationalization of Jerusalem. In the interest of preserving, protecting, and caring for holy places in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Nazareth, and elsewhere in Palestine, a permanent international body for the supervision and protection of the holy places in Palestine shall be created by the UN. The Majority Report recommended the partition of Palestine into an Arab state and Jewish state. Now, this is what Putin is calling for, the two-state solution, because Putin is a globalist. He believes in international laws and international order. And the territorial internationalization of the Jerusalem area, territorial internationalization of the Jerusalem area as an international enclave in the Arab state in Palestine. These recommendations were approved by the General Assembly in its resolution 181. Often referred to as the partition resolution, it envisions a demilitarized Jerusalem as a corpus separatum under the aegis of the UN Trusteeship Council, which would draft a statute for Jerusalem and appoint a governor. A legislature will be elected by universal adult suffrage. The statute would remain in force for 10 years and then be re-examined by the Trusteeship Council with citizenship participation through a referendum. All right. Corpus separatum, Jerusalem. Corpus separatum was the internationalization proposal for Jerusalem and its surrounding area as part of the UN partition plan for Palestine. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly and 2/3 majority in November 1947. According to the petition plan, the city of Jerusalem would be brought under international governance, conferring it a special status due to its shared importance for the Abrahamic religions. The corpus separatum was one of the main issues of the Lausanne Conference in 1949. besides the borders of Israel and the question of the Palestinian rights of return. The partition plan was not implemented, being firstly rejected by Palestinian and other Arab leaders and then overtaken by the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which left Jerusalem split between Israel, West Jerusalem, and Jordan, East Jerusalem. Presently, there is generally wide international support for the view that Jerusalem should be a dual capital, with an even split between Israel and the state of Palestine. So Israel, according to some of the globalists, they want it to be an international city. And I forgot who the leader was who stated that Jerusalem shall be an international city. It is going to be an international city. And every time you listen to Putin, Putin is always talking about the United Nations. He's always talking about the international laws, right? And he's following international law. So think of this. After this battle, after the destruction of Gaza and many of those in that land, right? Y'all know what I mean. Many in that land. There's going to be a call for global peace, for this situation to be resolved, and they're going to force both sides to come to the table. And Jerusalem is going to become an international city. It is going to become the head of this new world order system. This has been the plan from the very beginning. It will be a Luciferic order with a neutralized religious systems throughout the world. Why do I say that? Because we saw that the goal was to get rid of Christianity, right? To bring everyone to heel, the Islamic faith, even Judaism itself, and there's going to be this, even atheism is going to be removed. There's going to be a religion, but the religion is going to be a cosmic religion. The religion is going to be a universal religion, which incorporates all faiths, with the three main faiths being Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. That's going to be the main one. But neither one is going to have preeminence over the other. It's going to be a universal cosmic religion. Now, some people believe that, at the end of this global war, which is created by the Luciferians, aliens might show up. Maybe, I don't know. It's possible. Because you do need, in my opinion, a messianic figure. Why? Because it's supposed to be Armageddon. It's supposed to be Gog and Magog war. It's supposed to be the 7-year, peace treaty and all this stuff, a term of tribulation, whatever, right? It's supposed to be that, right? So if there's going to be this quote unquote fake millennial reign, right, which is what I think they're trying to accomplish, fake Gog Magog war, fake Armageddon, then there must be some type of messianic figure. And that messianic figure, whether he be the Antichrist or not, whatever, who more than likely will be. But, as I said, I think there's a high probability that the Antichrist is a possessed person, possessed by Apollyon. And the same thing going to happen in the future during the time of the real Gog and Magog war. And we talk about how we see the true Gog and Magog war. And when that occurs, we talk about that in the War Scrolls. And we also going to talk about that as we go, to Ezekiel. So let me read this, and I'm going to get Minister to tell you a comment. An international city is an autonomous or semi-autonomous city-state that is separate from the direct supervision of any single nation state. So they want to internationalize Jerusalem. It's going to be the center of world government. And this is what they're trying to bring forth. So this quote I'm going to quote right now, let's see, is from Peter Hoagland. And he stated, fundamental Bible-believing people do not have the right to indoctrinate their children in their religious beliefs because we, the state, are preparing them for the year 2000, when America will be part of a one-world global society and their children will not fit in. So you Israelites, your children will not fit in. I think the Christians will fit in because the Christians are universalists, right? I'm not talking about some of the right-wing ones. They sort of, probably won't fit in. But Christianity has already become a universal religion, right? Just like Catholicism has stated, Catholic means universal. Any comment, Minister T?
No, you can continue.
All right. So what I think is coming is a global system of faith, right? Where the three Abrahamic faiths, and we talked about this before, will be the head. And out of this war is what we're going to see happen. Everything is in place. Now, the question is, what does the cube represent? We talked about the cube in the past, right? We talked about the cube represents Saturn, or the cube represents Satan. So you saw there the three monotheistic religions coming together. This is the goal, and this is what's coming after this war. This is what they're trying to accomplish before 2030, in my opinion. Minister Tate.
So, given that they can bring all the three Abrahamic religions together, then Yah never needed Israel, right? And his plan to use Israel to share who he is with the nations, that was something that was never gonna happen or be successful, because he was gonna unite all these religions and you could worship him however you want. That's the sleight of hand of Satan, right? I mean, we know how Yah is. He don't play. And he don't share his glory with nobody, but yet these people are coming together and claiming that they serve the same God. Nah.
Now, we're going to read a few scriptures because, you know, some of y'all knew. And, you know, we repeated this 100 times already. But in order for the true Armageddon to take place, certain things must occur. And one of the things that they miss is Ezekiel chapter 37. They jump straight to Ezekiel chapter 38 and go to chapter 39, but they skip 37. 37 has to happen first. All right. Ezekiel 37, the valley of dry bones. The hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit and set me down in the middle of a valley. And it was full of bones. He led me all around among them. And I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, and indeed they were very dry. Then he asked me, Son of man, can these bones come to life? O Lord God, I replied, only you know. And he said to me, prophesy concerning these bones and tell them, dry bones, hear the words of Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah says to these bones. I will cause breath to enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh grow upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath within you so that you will come to life. Then you will know that I am Yahuwah. So I prophesied as I had been commanded, and as I prophesied, there was suddenly a noise, a rattling of bones came together, bone to bone. As I looked on, tendons appeared on them, flesh grew, and skin covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, prophesy to the breath, prophesy, son of man, and tell the breath that this is what Yahuwah says. Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe into these slain so that they may live. So I prophesied as he had commanded me, and the breath entered them, and they came to life and stood on their feet, a vast army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. So what is the bones? It's the whole house of Israel. Look there, saying, our bones are dried up, and our hope has perished. We are cut off. We're dead, right? Therefore prophesy and tell them that this is what Yahuwah says. My people, I will open your graves, see, because they were dead, and bring you up from them. And I will bring you back to the land of Israel. This has to happen before the real Armageddon. Then you, my people, will know that I am Yahuwah when I open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle you in your own land. Then you will know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and I will do it, declares Yahuwah. All right, I'm not going to read the rest. We see right here that Israel has to be born again as a nation and come back to the land, right? simple and plain, right? But let's go on to 38. So, Minister, tell you as I read this, if you want to comment, just let me know. I'll stop.
Okay.
And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Now, remember, I told you they're trying to make this situation in the Middle East the Gog and Magog war. That's what they're trying to do. And some of your mores as well, and some of your Christian pastors. Prophesy against him and declare that this is what Yahuwah says. Behold, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with all your army, your horses, your horsemen in full armor, and a great company armed with shields and bucklers, all brandishing their swords. Persia, Cush, and Put will accompany them, all with shields and helmets, as well as Gomer with all his troops, and Bet Togarmah from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. So they're expecting Jerusalem or Israel to be surrounded by armies. And you're going to see this in the Middle East, assuming I'm correct on what they're trying to do, right? They're trying
to
create this scenario, but go ahead.
And the question is, what is the hook that Yah puts in their jaws? Right? It tells you later on, which is what? Those resources they're after. But let's continue.
Verse 7. Get ready, prepare yourself, you and all your company gathered around you. You will be their guard. After a long time, you will be summoned in the latter years. You will enter a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel. Okay, stop right there. We saw in Ezekiel chapter 37 that we must first be born as a nation again and brought back to the land. Did we not see that in Ezekiel 37? Ezekiel 38 verse 7 tells you, get ready, prepare yourselves, you and all your company gathered around you. So this is Gog and Magog. You will be their guard. After a long time, you will be summoned in the latter years. You will enter a land that what? Has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations, right? To the mountains of Israel. So the second Exodus must happen. The restoration of Israel as a nation. I know some of y'all believe them people in the Middle East is that, and that they fulfill this, which had long been desolate. They had been brought out from the nations and all now dwell securely. You and all your troops and many peoples with you will go up, advancing like a thunderstorm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. So Israel must become a nation again and come back to the land and be restored. Now, y'all gonna say, well, that's them people in the Middle East. They already came back in 1948. Well, if they came back in 1948, what about all the other scriptures that says Israel will return from that captivity, from slavery, from being slaves? I'm saying, see, all of this ties together with other scriptures. It does not tie in by itself.
Right. True Israel was not just exile. True Israel went into captivity.
Into slavery.
Which is slavery. But the other people, all they can claim is being exiled. They cannot claim captivity, which is a Bible prophecy that has to be part of end times.
This is what Yahuwah says. On that day, thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will devise an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. We discussed this as well, that the unwalled villages occur once Israel is back in the land. We went through those scriptures. I'm not going to go through it again. So this shows that it is us, the descendants of slaves, who go back to Africa, right? Unwalled villages. Right now, the modern Israel has walls. They got walls built up between them and Gaza. They got military equipment, planes, jets, and all this stuff, right? But this gives us a timing of when this occurred. If you don't understand what the unwalled villages again, then, you know, like I say, go watch the other videos. I will come against you, a tranquil people who dwell securely, all of them living without walls or bars or gates, in order to seize the spoil and carry off the plunder. What? To seize the spoil and carry off the plunder. As Minister Teyu said, resources, African resources. There's no resources in the Middle East. There ain't no resources in the desert. Ain't nothing of value in the desert. Ain't nothing there. to turn a hand against the desolate places now inhabited and against a people gathered from the nations. What? A people gathered from the nations who have acquired livestock and possessions and who live at the center of the land. So we must be back in the land before Armageddon happens or before Gog and Magog war. But they want you to believe this is the fulfillment of prophecy.
And one more thing, Ezekiel 37 was Judah and Israel. Those other people, they only have one tribe.
That's true. So make it fit, Mores. Therefore prophesy, son of man, and tell Gog that this is what Yahuwah says. On that day when my people Israel are dwelling securely, will you not take notice of this? And you will come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all riding horses, a mighty horde, a huge army. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud covering the land. It will happen in the latter days, O Gog, that I will bring you against my land so that the nations may know me when I show myself holy in you before their eyes. This is what Yahuwah says. Are you the one whom I've spoken in former days through my servants, the prophets of Israel, who in those times prophesied for years that I will bring you against them? Now on that day when God comes against the land of Israel, declares the Lord God, my wrath will flare up. In my zeal and fiery rage, I proclaim that on that day there will be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, every creature that crawls on the ground, and all mankind on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. The mountains will be thrown down, the cliffs will collapse, and every wall will fall to the ground. Though the mountains will fall and the hills turn to dust, yet the love of the Lord will stand. Y'all know that song, right? And I will summon a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares Yahuwah, and every man's sword will be against his brother. I will execute judgment upon him with plague and bloodshed. I will pour out torrents of rain, hailstone, fire, and sulfur on him and his troops, on many nations with him. I will magnify and sanctify myself and will reveal myself in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord, or I am God, or I am Yahuwah. Okay, so what we have here is a nation that's going to come to try to take wealth from the people who return back to the land. So the people who return back to the land where there's money, where there's wealth, right? They come to plunder them because they came out of captivity.
And they're supposed to be surrounded by all these nations, but yet modern Israel got a whole bunch of allies and friends that actually control the world system. So how can this be Ezekiel 38 when they got all these allies instead of all these enemies that's supposed to be surrounding them? I mean, fighting Arabs ain't enough, right? Fighting Muslims is not Ezekiel 38 and couldn't be.
So we see here that the script has been written and the manipulation has happened where they're trying to convince you that we are living at the time of the return of the Messiah, the Gog and Magog war. And I wouldn't be surprised that they do have some kind of false Messiah figure, or maybe some Project Blue Beam hologram, aliens, Messiah figure. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, because in order for all of this to fit, right, they're trying to create this false millennial reign that that occurs after Armageddon. So here's what they're trying to do, right? Ezekiel chapter 12, Jerusalem will be attacked. The burden of the word of Yahuwah for Israel, said Yahuwah, with strength stretch it forth the heavens and lay at the foundation of the earth and form the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and Jerusalem. This is what they're trying to fulfill. They're trying to create this scenario, right? You're going to see the Middle East. You're going to see America there. You're going to see Russia there. You're going to see China there. You're going to see Iran there. And you're going to see all of this bloodshed. And people are going to think it's Armageddon. And they're going to bring in this whole new system. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut into pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. In that day said Yahuwah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness, and the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in the Lord of hosts their God. Now, we talked about this particular scripture, and we talked about it, how it aligns with what the War Scroll says, right? And how the War Scrolls come into fulfillment after the people are back in the land, okay? So they're creating a scenario for you to follow and for you to believe that we are entering the time of utopia. After a whole bunch of people they delete. They're trying to delete a whole bunch of people. They started off with the lollipop, and now they're starting off with World War, and all at the time to meet their SDG agenda timeline. Maybe you think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence.
Well, too, the same way you were coerced into getting the lollipop, you're going to be coerced to go along with this new plan where you give up your guns, where you go into 15-minute cities, right? Where you surrender all these rights that you used to have, where there's no more freedom of religion, because religion causes wars, right? That's going to be the narrative, right? And I'm not saying religions don't cause war. Religions do cause war, because those who submit themselves to Yah and follow Yeshua walk in peace, right? But these religion itself can and does often cause division and war. But the narrative is to coerce you. You're going to be really pressured to give up what you used to have, just like doing the lollipop. Most people did it because they had so much pressure. Their jobs was on the line. You know, they had bills to pay. They were in school, so they were in the military. So they didn't want to give all those things up, right? And some people paid the price physically for those things.
And as somebody said in the chat, we're not a religion. We're a covenant people, right? Who live according to the covenant of the Most High, right? And it's a father-son or father-children relationship whereby the children obey their father. And so Israel got a whipping called the Atlantic slave trade and went into captivity for 400 years. Right. So now we I'm like, if somebody can't see the prophecies happening, I feel sorry for you. I'm like, at this point, if you can't tell that the awakening of the Negro is the fulfillment of prophecy, is the fulfillment of the awakening of the Israelites, I feel so sorry for you. If you don't understand that you're being played like a violin to support the Antichrist world governmental system, I feel sorry for you. If you don't understand that the governments of the world, which is Gentile, is creating a Luciferic world order, I feel sorry for you. Because according to the scriptures, the nation or the empire or the kingdom of the Messiah is a Israelite kingdom. If it's not an Israelite kingdom, and I ain't talking about them people in the Middle East, right? I'm talking about a Yah-driven, right, kingdom with the return people who were hidden, right? His hidden ones. I feel sorry for you. I mean, how many times we got to show the scriptures to you and y'all still believe Eurocentric Christianity, eschatology? I feel sorry for you because some of y'all going to be caught up in this mess. And if, like I say, we at that time, right, that these things are going to happen and they're going to play out their Albert Pike, Giuseppe Mazzini plan, I feel sorry for you because you ain't going to make it. You ain't going to make it.
Here's the thing, that gets me in Eurocentric Christianity. They get forgiven for all the sins they've done, but Israel had to suffer from the very beginning until now. Israel went in and out of captivity, and all of a sudden, the Christian replaced Israel. Now, Israel suffered, couldn't measure up, and according to them, they just got to believe in that and don't even have to keep the laws no more, but they're found in Yah's favor. Come on now, that's a deception, because the Bible says you have to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. You have to carry your cross, right? Now, line that up with their doctrine about everything's forgiven. You don't have to do anything anymore but believe. That's a trap, right? You have to continue to hold on to his garment until you die. You have to work out your salvation with fear and trembling until you die. You have to trust his word and go in and out of trials and tests and become an overcomer, to become victorious over your sins by repenting, going before the throne, going through that cycle of repentance, right? And trying to get it right, that you know that you belong to him. Ain't no confession with your mouth. It's your lifestyle.
So I'm going to tell you, check out that private chat. So understand this, what we're dealing with here is a plan, right? And it's a world plan that's been scripted for centuries, and at least a century. And what we're dealing with here is a sophisticated deception that many people gonna fall for, and especially the Christians, right? Because the Christians are definitely primed to fall for this scenario, and all unbelievers, right? Whether you're an Israelite, you know, an African Israelite or whatever, many of you all are primed to fall for the deception because you don't know the scriptures, or you believe Eurocentric Christianity and all that stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the link out there for those who got questions for us, because in my opinion, we don't have a lot of time left. If things continue this way, if there's not a pause or some kind of mediation, right, then I believe this scenario is going to play out. So if you got a question for us before we shut down, there's the link if you want to come on. So, Minister, tell you, when we look at the plan of the elite and the whole idea of the three Abrahamic faiths, and you know the fact that those centers of worship are shaped like a cube, I mean, does that not denote the idea of Luciferianism?
Well, what do they say those cubes represent from their perspective? Because clearly, none of the Islam has a cube, but but I'm just, maybe that's what it ties to, right? But even
each one of them
is Saturn,
each one of
right?
them have a cube, right?
Oh,
each
all
one of
three,
them.
all
three of them, yeah. And each one of their buildings is shaped like a cube as well.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's a New Order, satanic order.
Yeah. All right, Lady J, how's it going? You have a question?
Hi.
Hello. How you doing?
Blessed
Shalom.
Sabbath, everyone. Shalom. Well, I not a question exactly. I just wanted to say that, you know, everything that you've taught is really dead on. And I think certain churches have left a lot out. They don't even touch what you're talking about. And it's all, everything is just sweet to their ears, let's say. So people are not prepared whatsoever with what's coming. And I think right now, you know, people are sitting on the edge of their seats as to when is the big three gonna kick off. But, you know, as you were talking, the movie Chronicles of Riddick came to mind. And we know how old that movie was. And if you remember, it was a one world, well, not a one world religion in the sense, it was more planetary, because this demonic was going from planet to planet, giving the ultimatum that you either accept our worship or we're just going to destroy your entire planet. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah. Where they had the death, what they call those people, you keep what you kill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember that when they invaded the planet and when they took them over, they did something to their necks? Do you remember?
I don't remember that part. What did they do to their neck? The necromongers.
Yes, that's right. They would, when they took over, they would lollipop them in the neck.
Oh, really? I gotta watch that again. I don't even remember that.
Gotta go back. Yes, they would lollipop them in the neck, and it was like they totally lost all feeling and just had no like self-will whatsoever. And another thing that was noticeable, their eyes were glazed over. So it was like they couldn't even see. And that just came back to me as you were talking. And it's just so funny how before the takeover, which is happening now, they gave everyone a lollipop. Is that a coincidence? Or were they telling us in the Chronicles of Riddick what they were doing?
I believe they tell us everything in the movies. I ain't gonna lie, I do. I mean, I've seen too much stuff come to pass that they put in the movies.
They do. And there was one other point. It slipped me now, but I just believe we don't have much longer to wait.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because this is what I will say, because where I work in a major supermarket, I mean, we had no tomatoes.
Really? How long have you all been without tomatoes?
I'm there 2 days a week, and I noticed for the 2 days I was there weren't any, just very few. And I just found that very strange. And it's been certain types we've not had at all for a while. The little baby round ones, we've not had any of those at all. And, you can see on the shelves, there's less of this, less of that. And so, our only hope really, like you said, is just making sure that our lifestyle is correct in front of those that do not believe at all, because people are people watchers,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they must understand, as the word says, you are to seek your own salvation with fear and trembling. Like, don't watch me, because you just might end up in hell, because I am far from perfection as yet, and this is something I pray for every day. Father, please let me be holy as you are holy, and let me be perfect as you are perfect. I have to pray every day to keep me on that straight and narrow and being obedient. But this is it now. People better decide as to whose side they're on now.
Yep.
You better make that right choice. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lady J. Thanks for coming on. All right, Sister Ruhama. Okay, tomatoes. Tomato. Anyway, let's go on. All right, Miss 50.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brother Yacob and brother Teyu.
Shalom.
And Shabbat Shalom, actually. So just a quick question. Now, understandably so, we are getting out of our captivity soon. Now, while this is all happening, I'm presuming that they're trying to usher in the New Jerusalem, as you stated, somewhere over there in Ukraine, in the Ukraine area where they were originated, where the fake Jews originated from, correct? If I'm correct?
Repeat that question.
Yes. So while we're, exiting or exodusing out of here, I'm presuming that they're trying to usher in the quote unquote New Jerusalem, where they get the fake Jews out. And is that what they're doing?
Well, what they're doing right now is trying to create chaos so that they
Right.
can bring all of the nations down to their knees. Now, if your question was when do we leave or how do we leave, then like I've said before, I think we're gonna pretty much be refugees. Fleeing.
I think she was saying would Khazaria 2.0 be the new location for Israel?
For some of the okay, for some of the Ish people.
Yeah.
This is what I think gonna happen. I think a lot of the Ish people are going to go there because, there's a good bit that live in Jerusalem as well. But once it
Right.
becomes an international city, and after all of this chaos, they're not gonna want to live in the Middle East. So they're gonna probably move to Ukraine, and since that whole area is gonna be an international city, that the people there are going to end up becoming mostly global citizens. I think a lot of people in that area are going to be global citizens. You're not going to have a lot of the Ish people that's going to stay. And same thing with the Arabs. I think the Palestinians, they're going to move to Jordan and some of the others. Some going to stay there, but I think a lot of people just going to leave because it's going to be so bloody. They're not going to want to risk that happening again. And so that's what I think gonna happen.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense. Now, another thought I had was people are going to think, well, if with the new Khazaria 2.0 coming into Usher, they're going to think, oh, well, they're exodusing. There you go. They're exodusing out of the Jerusalem, out of what that is, into the New Jerusalem. So they must be the people. That's going to cause a lot of confusion too. And I know people. I personally know somebody who believes that's the real Israel, and she's
a lot of people believe that's the real Israel.
Right.
They don't know the word though.
Right, and and not to mention she is a preacher, but she's a little up there in age as well. And I had this conversation with her a few weeks ago when I was back in Denver, and I told her, that's look at all the clues, that they don't have any resources. That land is war torn. It's not even that big, and not to mention history biblically points us back to Africa, and she just wasn't seeing it. She was just going based off of what she's always known. So.
Yeah, it's a spiritual deception, and there's no waking people up unless the Most High wake them up about all that stuff.
Well, they're not willing to answer the hard questions, right? Like we are. We're looking at the minute details of the scripture and say, well, does this fit? Does this fit? Is the land big enough to accommodate the 12 tribes? Because even when they came out of Egypt, they were big, probably bigger than that land could hold. So.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, you can already tell. Somebody already said it, that Israel is literally the size of New Jersey, so it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else, Miss Fifi?
Oh, no, that's all I had. Thank you so much, you guys, and Shabbat Shalom again to everybody.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. Hot sauce, you come to cause trouble? What's up?
No, Shalom, brothers. I just have a few questions. The first question I wanted to know if I understand it right, where it talks about Magog and Magog, and it talks about they're supposed to bring us back to the land. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're supposed to go back to the land first.
Yeah. You can even tie that to Zechariah 2. What is it? 2:12, I think.
Yeah, because I think like a year or two ago, Russia actually did this song in their church talking about Negroes wake up.
Yeah, I remember that when we showed it on here.
Yeah, and then so the second part, so one of the reasons why we're not going to have a wall, or what we understand today as defenses, is because they're supposed to defend us for a bit, right? Because
the Most High said He's gonna be a wall of fire around us.
Yeah, He's gonna be a wall of fire, but that's what I ask you. When you read it, I believe you said they will be a protected. I believe you read, maybe I misheard, but I thought it was
Ezekiel 38.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, when you read about the when Magog comes to us because now they run out of resources. I think maybe one or two verses above that, it says that they will be a defense for us or something like that.
Let me bring it up right quick. So Ezekiel 38, you say?
Yeah, I believe it's where it talks about they're going to come to take the resources from us. I think it's a few verses up.
Is 38:16.
Okay, get ready. Okay, let's start at 7. Get ready, prepare yourselves, you and all your company gathered around you. You will be their guard. After a long time, you will be
right
summoned.
There. You will be their guard.
You will be their guard. I think that's a translation thing. I don't. Gog and Magog. We're thinking in terms of protection. Cause look at the context.
So let me read the CEV version.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna start from 7.
Because the reason why I'm asking that, because they're supposed to be the part of the 4 carpenters that actually bring us back.
Yeah. I mean, I think we do get back based on some kind of protective agreement with the 4 carpenters. I mean, that's possible. But I mean, according to that scripture, Yah said he's the one that's going to really fight for us and protect us, though. But I do think, like you said, I mean, if you think naturally, as far as a natural flow of events, and the 4 carpenters actually defeat our enemies and create this method for us to get back.
Look at this translation right here for the NIV. It says, "Get ready, be prepared, you and all the hordes gather about you and take command of them." Right now, some of them say, "And be a guard for them." See, I think this is probably a better translation.
Which verse is that?
Verse 7.
Okay, because so CEV version, verse 7 says, "So keep your troops prepared to fight, because in a few years I will command you to invade Israel, a country that was ruined by war. It was deserted for a long time, but its people have returned from the foreign nations where they once lived. The Israelites now live in peace in the mountains of their own land."
Okay, so that word, so in that version, there's no guard at all. Okay, so maybe it's okay. Yes, I just kind of wanted to kind of get some kind of clarity on that, because how I view this is just, this will be what I think will be the destruction of America, right? The second Exodus and everybody, the 10 horns, but that's how I see it. But I just had that question: was it like, because I know ultimately it will be the Most High protecting us, but the Most High does use people, right? So
yeah, so we don't think that, we think America is going to be destroyed before the Gog and Magog war. That's what we believe.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000% that the Magog war is like when we're back in the land, we're all there, right? Like I'm 100% on board with that. It's just that it was just interesting to see, because when I heard it, I was like, "God, that seems to be a little bit interesting." But I think that's the only. And the other question, when we're talking about the cube, and you showed the video, like they wear the cube when they're at the Wailing Wall, right? The Jews, and then
Islam, on their forehead,
right. They put the cube on their forehead while at the Wailing Wall, and then the other one's walking around the cube in Islam.
Yeah,
and Christian. I don't know what cube for Christianity, but anyway, don't you think that this kind of happened already?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, because majority of the world is one of the 3, right?
I don't rephrase your question, because I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay, like as far as like a quote unquote universal religion, kind of thing. Majority of the world is one of the 3. Either is like Asia is mostly Muslim, the West is mostly Christian or Catholic, and then you have the Judaism, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's still Hinduism and Buddhism and all those other isms.
Yeah. So what I think is going to happen, is that after this, those 3 Abrahamic faiths are going to be the leadership of the world religions. You're still going to have other religions, but it's going to be led by the Pope, by the Imam, and the head of Judaism. Those are going to be the leaders of the world religious system.
Okay, because and maybe I have my timeline wrong, right? But it talks about in the land of your captivity, you will remember yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And then it talks about in front of everyone, I will claim you back. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and then they will worship you at your feet.
Correct.
To my understanding, wouldn't that be the second Exodus?
Yeah, right? I mean, all of that is going to happen when we're returning back to the land. Yeah.
Right. So my understanding, we're gonna turn back sooner rather than later. So my question is I guess how does that work? How can the Gentiles want to cleave to us while we're going back, but at the same time see a false Messiah?
Yeah, so timing wise for all of that, I think there's a hiatus period in between. Like, for instance, after this war, right? Or, well, let's say this how I see it. Minister Tate may be different, but during this time of war, we're going to flee into the wilderness, right? Which is, as I said, a refugee situation. And at some point in time between all of that is what we call a second Exodus, where everybody of the diaspora goes back to the land of Africa. And so during that time, there's going to be this call for world peace. So you know how the scripture says that the 10-toe kingdom, which is going to be forming at that time, because, you know, they're going to have these conferences and people are going to be meeting. What are we going to do? Because the UN has failed us. It never worked. So there's going to be a new system put in place. And so these countries are going to come together. And something, as I mentioned to my brother recently, I said something major has to happen for these people to accept us as the people, right? For some miracle or something, because like we have all of the history, we have everything, that the Bible itself, everything proves that we are, but they don't care, they don't listen. So something's going to happen that forces them to recognize us, and that's what's going to force them to send us back home around the world. Now,
Well,
I believe at that time, you know, sometime after that, you know, the 10 is going to be consolidating their power for the Gentile nations. Because remember, I said at the time of those 10, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never end. So I believe during that time, at the formation of the 10-toe confederacy will also be the creation of the Israelite nations in the second Exodus, and we go back home. And this is why the 10 toes are partly strong, partly weak, because we're not a part of it. Right, because remember, before it was all iron. Everything was one world governmental order run by Rome, which is the iron legs. But at the toes is partly strong, partly weak. But
I like to just make it clear the distinction between the flee versus the nations bringing us home, right? Because I know some people get confused with that, but the idea here is that according to the scriptures, that the way we see it, Israel in Mystery Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots, those who reside in her will have to flee, right? But then the Isaiah 60 kicks in for the rest of our brothers and sisters around the globe, right? Somewhere in between there, these nations acknowledge who we are. According to Isaiah 60, it appears to be based on the Holy Spirit that they see in our people in Isaiah 60,
right?
And they return us home. So like all our people in Brazil, the islands, you know, that are not members, India and around the globe, who are not living inside of Mystery Babylon, the great, the mother harlots, they're going to go back like Isaiah 60, where the nations bring them back by planes, trains, and automobiles, right? But but what we see with the flee, those who are in Babylon, because Babylon's going to be judged, and there's going to be a like you see in Israel right now, where they're telling the Palestinians, you got so many days to leave, and we're coming in. It may be something similar to that for us who live and reside in Babylon, Mystery Babylon.
Because I do believe that this will definitely be the destruction, and it talks about it will be desolate and burning forever. Not even plants nor animals will be there. So I agree with you there. I just kind of want to understand, because, you know, some part of it to me doesn't really kind of make sense, because if we have the light of the Most High on us, and then they're going to want to cleave to us, but at the same time, you're going to have some type of individual coming as professing a Messiah at the same time, but we're supposed to be, you know, recognized, like the Most High is going to let everyone know and recognize that, hey, we are the true people at the same time. So
that's a tough one, because I mean, the Bible talks about how you know, they're going to recognize we are the seed that the Lord had blessed. So you say, well, you know, how do they follow a false Messiah if they we God's people, right?
Because the unbelievers follow the false Messiah. The believers will acknowledge true Israel.
Yeah. So the unbelievers, they may be following the false system, because obviously the false system is still in place, right? The 10-toe confederacy. And remember, the scripture says the 10 give their power to the beast at some point in the future, right? We don't know how much time passes between that, because remember, the 10 gonna rule for a while, and then they give their power to the Antichrist, or who we call Antichrist. So,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's my only question. Thank you for your time. Be blessed, and Shabbat Shalom.
All right. See ya. Shebrew, how you doing?
Shalom, my brother.
Shalom. Shabbat
Been a long time.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's been a long time. Y'all know you guys' voices sound exactly the same.
Yeah, because we're identical twins.
Feels like it.
No, we are. We are identical twins.
For real?
Yeah, for real.
In real life?
In real life.
Well, that's a shock.
Everybody else knew.
Yeah, everybody know.
I don't usually get silent like that, so that was awkward for me. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I miss you guys. I've been going through a lot, but on top of everything that you guys speak about, you guys subscribe to the Apocrypha, right?
What about it?
Do you subscribe to it?
Oh yeah. I definitely do.
Yeah, because there's I believe there's a scripture in there that says, the people will look and see who the holy people are. If not then who?
Yeah,
so
I mean, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 talks about that as well.
Yeah, so I think that needs to be brought up so everybody knows, like, they're like the fake ones are gonna be exposed at some point, and then everybody's gonna be like, damn, I thought they were the holy people. So if they're not, then who is? If you want to bring that scripture up.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible said they're gonna recognize that we are the seed the Lord had blessed. So there's going to be an awakening for the Gentiles. It's partially happening now. So like with a lot of the stuff we see today, I think a lot of the prophecies are happening. Like even if you want to say the going into the wilderness or the second Exodus, I believe part of that has already started, right?
Absolutely.
So our people going back to the continent and stuff like that, whether or not they know they're fulfilling prophecy.
And I just found out my cousin, he's like around 70 years old, and he's been doing biological research for about 30 years. And he just let me know that I was related to Harriet Tubman.
Oh, okay.
That's insane. And she was from the Ashanti tribe.
Oh, really?
Right. And then I found out that most of my lineage goes back to pretty much everywhere on the west coast of Africa.
Yeah, that's most people.
Right, exactly. Negro land.
Yeah, Negro land. Yeah. Can we say Israel?
Right, exactly. Can we say afros and beards all day? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
But how you been?
We doing good. You have any more questions?
I wanted to ask you if you knew about this. So remember when they were letting people in from Afghanistan into the United States?
Oh yeah. They let everybody in.
Right. They're letting everybody in. But do you know how many? You know what a sleeper cell is, right?
A what?
I'm pretty sure. Sleeper cell?
Oh yeah. I mean, they got sleeper cells from all the countries.
Oh no. Now it's even worse because we've pretty much been in, like, not we, because we don't want to be here, but America has been invaded. So there's more sleeper cells popping up.
Oh yeah. See, once the Middle East gets on fire, America's in trouble because all of these sleeper cells are gonna wake up.
Oh yep.
Yeah, Yacoba did some videos showing how people were coming across the border, military-age men, right? Chinese and other nations just coming into America.
Right, exactly. And that's what we need to be like privy about, because with them doing that, it's not because they're just doing it, it's because there's an agenda. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. America has been betrayed, right? And the people don't realize, well, some of the Gentiles realize it. Some of them, they say that today, that America's been betrayed. But we've been telling them that for how many years now?
Forever.
Yeah.
Ever.
So Shebrew, we're gonna move on. We got some other people waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on.
No problem. Take care. Love you, brother.
I love you. Bye. Judah J, how's it going?
Shalom, brother. It's been amazing just to see everything that has been happening and just so quickly. It's just blowing my mind. So blessings to you, blessings to your channel. In the book of First Enoch, it says that the Lord shall send his angels to stir up the kings, and that they will attack each other. Now, all this happens in the times of the true children of Israel's awakening. So there might be sort of an ambiguity to make people think, oh, are they against each other? Are they for each other? Are they working together? But it's a proxy war, of course, which is against us, which of course, I've heard from this channel, and which I've, from my studies, understand every war that goes on in the world is basically to position themselves in a way in which will come against us.
Yeah.
So y'all is actually, to let people know, Father Yah is actually leading them to make these moves. So nothing that you are seeing is from their own creativity or from their own their thoughts. They are being led to do it without actually knowing. The second thing I'd say is Africa, like you've said before, is waking up to make room for us. So every move that you see, the leaders are coming out saying that they are tired of France being in their country. They're tired of the Western nations sanctioning them and doing all. It's just making room for us. It's what the Most High does. He works in our reality. He works in a way that is natural. It's not like something you have to really, oh, this is some supernatural type of thinking or weird. No, he works in our reality. So he's stirring these people up to kind of like acknowledge that they've been treated wrong and they've been done wrong. And it happens at this time because these are the last times. The next thing, Satan is mimicking the word of the Most High God. And what I mean by that is, of course, Satan tries to do everything twisted backwards. The Most High has done. So when you say the rapture and you say the exodus of the children of Israel, the people that are the Gentiles think they're going to be raptured out of here. That is a taking out or removing of a place from a place that they were before to escape trouble. Israelites, Exodus, moving from the place of trouble to escape the place of danger. That's the same thing. Satan's doing that as well. The next thing, as a targeted individual, which I've always said on my channel, which I've told you before, I know that the Gentiles, most of the Gentiles that are going to wake up, have been woken up now. So they are waking up because most and most. No. What I mean, I made a mistake there. I misspoke. The Gentiles, a lot of them, when it says the Bible, when the Gentiles wake up, then the end comes. So the Gentiles have the number. What I mean, they've come in.
Yeah.
That number has come in. So because most of them are just now conduits for spirits to enter into them to work against the children of Yah, that's why you have the crisis actors that whenever you see the news and they talk about something that's happened, and you're like, where do these people come from? Where do they find these people? Because they have a spirit in them that's leading them to support the narrative of the wicked ones. The last thing, Jacob's trouble. And this is what this is something that I've been studying. I've always thought Jacob's trouble is a time where we will go through intense persecution. I've now, doing my study, have learned that, and this is just what I believe, Jacob's trouble is not for us. Jacob's trouble is for the Gentiles. You see how the Gentiles are now being persecuted. They're turned against one another by a precept. Is the angels, 4 angels are turning the leaders against one another. They think they're trying to get the new world order into place, but they're actually doing what the Most High Yah is leading them to do, to destroy themselves. They will now be the ones that will be looking up into the heavens, seeking for a sign, and looking at the news and looking at all these boule and all these secret societies trying to get their information to guide them. They secretly think their governments are for them when they're actually against them for all the whole white supremacy thing. They secretly want Trump to be in the office because, he'll bring some sort of semblance of power back to us, and we see what's going on, and so now we have to support this guy because he's our only hope. They are being led in that direction because those people, it says the wicked shall believe a lie. They shall believe those things which are not true. This is paraphrasing. I believe the time of Jacob's trouble is not against us, the true Israelites. I believe the time of Jacob's trouble is for the nations, that they will be destroyed. And we will now start to rise up, a nation that comes up and that's built in a day. And we've already gone through our stuff. Why would the Most High God y'all take us through and go all this persecution we've been through, all the red line, all this chattel slavery, all this stuff, in order to take us back into another persecution? I think we are now being woken up, so that and to know who we are, and they're gonna now go through their persecution.
Yeah, so
I
in
believe
terms
they're
of
now.
in
Go
terms of
ahead.
Jacob's trouble, we agree with Council Girl. We believe it started in 70 AD.
Yeah,
That's
most definitely. Me too.
when we first went into captivity, and
Yes.
we're still in Jacob's trouble now. I think what you were talking about is more in terms of like the Great Tribulation, Matthew chapter 24, as opposed to Jacob's trouble. They're not the same.
But so what I'm to clarify, I believe we've always been in this tribulation because of when we went into the 400 years, when that started. And even before that, it's like we are going through our persecution and tribulation, but it doesn't have. It's like it goes through time. Time passes, and you're still. So we're out of the 400 years, but we're still sort of in the endings of our persecution. We're still not. We're not cursed anymore, but we're still, it's like the coming out of it. So you're still going to have like a remnants
Right.
of
So
that persecution. Go ahead.
isn't Jacob's trouble is against Israel, not against the Gentiles, right?
No. This is where I kind of
Because I mean, we can
lead.
read the verse Jeremiah 30 verse 7, but the whole thing is about Israel having a yoke on their neck, being in chains, right?
Yeah. So I do believe that Jacob's trouble is a time of persecution. But what I do also believe is when it talks about Jacob's trouble, I believe that we have been in Jacob's trouble when we went into our persecution, starting our 400 years. And then after that 400 years, this is just, I could be wrong. But after that 400 years is over, I believe that this persecution, it says that Israel should be what is it? Sort of a hindrance to the world. Now, the nations want to say that these false people over there, Jacob, Revelation 2:9-3:9, they're the ones that are the true. So whenever something happens to them, that's showing that this is Jacob's trouble happening. I believe that we are Jacob, and we have already been in trouble. But now, when the Most High starts to bring us out, the trouble will befall the nations. The trouble will now befall them, and we'll be rising as a nation. And our 400 years is over. So now we're going to come out, and they're going to experience the plagues like Egypt. They're going to experience all the plagues and all these things we're going to see, and we're going to be like, wow. But he's going to bring us out with the exodus of the danger. So I think that Jacob's trouble has to do with them.
So Brother Judah, we got to move on. So
no, most definitely. Blessings to you. Hey, I love your channel. I'm going to become a Cash App. I haven't been in the position to do it. Now I am. So I love you. Anybody out there listening, this man and this channel, they are serving the Most High Yah. I know it in my spirit. I watch you guys for like 6 or 7 years, 5 years. Hey, support this channel. Blessings to you, family, and shalom.
All right, thank you, brother. All right, I want to read this right quick, and I'm gonna come to you, Sister Betty. This is Jeremiah 30. It says, "The last for that day is so great that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." Now, what is Jacob's trouble? It says, "For it shall come to pass in that day," what? The day of Jacob's trouble, said Yahuwah of hosts, "that I will break his yoke from off thy neck." So Israel has a yoke on their neck, right? Can we say slavery? "And will burst thy bonds," right? Israel has chains. "And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him," right? Israel's are slaves, right? "But they shall serve Yahuwah their Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them." So Jacob's trouble is our enslavement, our captivity, and all of that started at 70 AD at the fall of Jerusalem. And Many of us fled, went into exile, and we were scattered, and some even became slaves to Rome, and also, of course, the Arabic slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade. Minister, tell you any comment before I go to Sister Betty?
No, you covered it. Thanks.
All right. Hey, Sister Betty, how's it going? I've been waiting to get together and talk with you, Sister Betty.
You already know the enemy think he gonna deter that, but he won't. I'm patient. He ain't got no power over him.
Hello, Sister Betty.
Brother, tell you my little brother now. Is my big brother, you my little brother, and just know for a surety that's a fact. But I got questions for you two brothers. First of all, I wanna say this. Satan has been at this game for centuries. This is not new to him. He knows what the Most High said about his people that turned away from him. Satan knows this. So he got all the tactics. I mean, he has an arsenal of weapons against us. We have the one powerful weapon, though, that's going to overthrow him. We have the Most High, Yahuwah, the Creator. But listen, see that whole Christianity religion thing? It was a scheme orchestrated by the Catholic Church. That whole scheme of Islam, it's all a scheme by Satan. See, because Satan is gathering up people to come and war against the saints, which is us. Satan is gathering up an army as we speak right now. That Christianity, satanic. Islam, satanic. Buddhist, satanic. Hindu, all these false religions. He's just building an army. And Yahuwah is blessing this ministry to bring us up out of this war that is coming. Not coming, it is already here. See, you're in a global bubble in this country. We're in a global bubble where we can't see outside because it's a whole war, a spiritual warfare that's going on against us right now. You just think that Israel and Palestine fighting, Ukraine and Russia's fighting, that has nothing to do with us. But the whole battle, it is against us. Why can't African American Hebrew Israelites come out of this false religion of Christianity? Because Satan is using Yah's chosen people against Yah, and they don't see it.
Yeah,
they don't see this. They're so delusional that they really are gearing up for trunk or treat. Churches, trunk or treat. Our people, trunk or treat. Thanksgiving, Christianity, Tammuz's birthday, Buddha's birthday. It's 14 different deities that's born on December 25th, but we cannot see it. But now Yakoba tell you are doing, y'all sweating blood over there?
Sweating blood? No, not me.
you done sweating water. You got to be sweating some blood because you putting in blood and tears in this. And it's like nobody really sees this. Why? Because it is satanic. It's a satanic movement that they're in. Yakoba, tell you, listen, John 8:33. John 8:33. Y'all know that verse?
I'll pull it up right quick. Let me pull it up. John 8:33.
John 8:33.
All right, let's pull it up. They answered him, "We are Abraham's descendants and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free?"
Now, they ain't never been enslaved to nobody and can't be set free. Well, who is?
You mean who are they?
Who are they? Yeah.
Yep.
Esau.
Who are they?
Esau. Yep.
They don't people from Mount Sierra.
Yep.
It's crazy, and you why can't you just can't understand that? You can't see that. You cover that's really all that's really all I have.
Okay. And thank you, Sister Betty. And waiting to talk to you.
It ain't gonna be stopped, Nicole, because you know Arthur is there.
Yeah.
Him and his family. They got up a video on Solo Soul, him and his family.
Yeah, I've been watching it.
You've been watching it.
Yeah, I've been watching it.
And you know, my granddaughter, Bella Sarai, beautiful Sarah, you know, she was out playing with a bunch of African kids. And she asked them in Swahili, do they speak English? And she said they all said no. And so she told them that, you know, she was American. And she said all of them just start laughing and running around and say, look, it's an Americani, it's an Americani. And she died laughing. She thought that was so funny that they thought that she was a, something to look at, something to point at, because she was the only American child there. And she called herself speaking Swahili, little word here, little word there. But
yeah,
I gotta talk to you, Minister Jacob. Like it's a must. It's a must for your brother to tell you to get with me.
So send me an email at the date and time you want to talk, and we can.
Oh, what are you doing the rest of the day? Right quick.
We could talk today.
After the show, I'm gonna send you an email after the show while I'm still sitting at home. But I'm gonna send you an email.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Ben.
Love y'all.
Love you too. Fast Nickel, how's it going?
Shalom Shabbat, brothers.
How you like that crypto, Fast Nickel?
Hey, I love my crypto. And that's another.
They've been breaking numbers.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah.
So here's my question. You have done a lot of studies. I think about the Khazaria 2.0 that you did about a year ago. You're talking about the Ish city. We know that the current land is run by Zionists who are anti the Most High. We got the 2030 agenda. So initially, when I thought about the second Exodus, I thought it was going to be because they were going to reveal who we are. But now I don't think so, because that puts a nail in all of their other plans that they want to do. So now I'm thinking that when this second Exodus happens, the reason that they'll use for it is that they're just using it to right a wrong, not because we are the people. So with that said, do you think that the current state of Israel will always be the state of Israel, or eventually at some point, once we're back in the land, the two sticks are forming, that it will come to pass that the real Israel is brought forth?
Well, I think once because the scripture says we go in the wilderness first, and then we go back to Jerusalem, and then it becomes a land of unwalled villages. I think once we are there, everybody gonna know what a true Jerusalem is, and that will no longer be called Jerusalem. But I think until then, they're gonna call that Jerusalem, because the goal is for that to be the center of this world order with their world messianic false Christ. Right, that's their goal. Now, whether or not they achieve that early, later, within the next 1,000 years, who knows? But you remember, there's some time frame between events, and as I mentioned with Judah J was on, that there's about some time between the time that the 10 come to power and rule, and they get their power over to the beast. So, we'll see. But I believe we're going to be back in the land before the quote unquote Antichrist, man of sin, is revealed. So,
okay. There's going to be a lot going on within the next 5 years, leading up to this 2030 agenda. I mean, probably mind bending.
I think so. A major deception. Just like what happened over the last 3 years, and how the world got locked down and so many people followed the lie. It's gonna happen again, right? And a lot of people gonna follow the lie, and they're gonna abandon the belief in the Messiah. Because I ain't gonna say Christianity, because Christianity is a religion. It's not the belief in the Messiah, but they're gonna abandon the belief in the Messiah and go. A lot of them go to this world system. Now, once we're brought back, I would think there's a revival or something of some level that, those who will believe are going to attach themselves to Israel. But some of those Gentiles who hate Negroes, they ain't gonna never change. I don't care what happened, because their heart is hardened. You know, once your heart
Correct.
is hardened, you know that's it. You know?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Fastner. Brother Keith, how's it going?
Shabbat shalom, brothers.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad you did this show, and thank you for providing clarity on these issues, because I think that's needed. And by the way, let me just say real quick, for those who are new to this channel, y'all need to go back and watch a lot of those videos. You need to go to the the main landing page of the channel and scroll through and learn some stuff, because who knows, the internet may be disconnected at some point, and you need to have the stuff in your head. You need to have it in your spirit, so you can understand what the heck is going on, because a lot is going to be unfolding in the coming days. So a lot of what people have been saying kind of ties into the question I have, because I want to get your perspective on some things. So first of all, everyone knows about what happened with in Gaza on October 7th, when they attacked the fake land. When I see that, first of all, when they attacked, they used homemade rockets. They used basically what I call like the hoopty of rockets. It was homemade mostly, and they did a lot of damage with those homemade rockets. Yes, the Iron Dome shot a lot of them down, but they were homemade and they were slow, unguided. So of course, a high-tech like air defense system could shoot those hoopty rockets down. Now, of course, with what's going on, a lot of other countries with advanced weapons are threatening to get involved. You have Turkey, which is a NATO member. You have Iran. You have Jordan. They issued some veiled threats, although they have a relationship with Israel. There's a lot of countries that are getting stirred up, a lot of people. So with and someone mentioned earlier that Israel is the size of New Jersey, which this leads me to my question, because I have a theory about it. Because if these countries get involved, they may or may not. Kind of looks like they may be getting involved. What people may not realize is that because that land, that Dust Bowl sand dune is so small, it'll be very easy to attack. It'll be very easy to destroy with all the advanced weaponry all of those nations have. They don't even have to use like a lot of ground forces. I'm talking about with just, advanced missiles, rockets. It'll be so easy, which leads me to my question. So it looks like they're going to do it. So if they attack, honestly, they're going to wipe it off the face of the earth, like they've been threatening to do for a long time. And my theory is that when they do that, and I believe it may happen, because it's more likely to happen now than at any point in history, because this is not 1967. This is not 73. Everything is more advanced now. All those countries that attacked them then are way more advanced, and they have way better weapons now. So if they attack now, they'll be able to wipe them off the face of the earth. And my theory, which leads to my question, my theory is that if and when they do it, and I believe they will do it, then like all the Christian eschatology, like all of what they've been saying and preaching about who the real people are, where the real land is, they're going to be so confused. They're going to be, because how do they explain that? Wait a minute, because they've been teaching that the Messiah is going to return once Israel, which they have gotten it wrong about who Israel is. Once Israel is attacked, you mentioned Gog and Magog. So they've been teaching all this stuff, and they have the people wrong, they have the land wrong. And when the land is destroyed, I believe that that's when they're going to have to take another look at it. They're going to have to rethink it, and they're going to be like, okay, wait a minute, maybe they aren't the real people, because it's going to be hard to explain that. So, with that premise, if that happens, it may or may not. I'm getting the feeling that it probably will. If that happens, how do you think they'll attempt to kind of shift the story or the narrative to kind of explain that away? Like how did that land get destroyed if they're the true chosen people?
I'm not sure, because if the land gets destroyed, I guess for me, my issue is knowing the nature of Gentiles, right? And more so them folks. Truth don't matter to them. The Bible don't matter to them. They they're gonna believe what they want. They're gonna come up with some lies, some twist, something, right? I don't think that's gonna awaken them. I think something else is gonna happen of a supernatural means that, because the Bible says in Isaiah 60, "Arise and shine, for your light has come, and Gentiles are going to be drawn to the brightness of thy rising." So I think it's going to be more than that. I mean, that's logical what you said, but they look, here's the bottom line. They should know we the people now. There's enough evidence out there, right? So I don't think that's enough to wake them. That's just me.
But do you think that it's easier for them to lie? Because they've been
easier
lying
to lie.
like it's been well financed and widespread for years. They've been lying. They've been lying. Their parents have been lying. Their grandparents have been lying. Great grandparents have been lying. Everybody's been lying for a long time. But my thought is that it'll be harder to lie. Like, really, like, how do you explain that? They lie a lot, and they're good at it.
They'll continue to lie. They're gaslighters. That's what they do.
Wait, so the question is how? I mean, if the land is destroyed, how will they deal with that? Is that
because
how
would they deal with it? How do you think they would explain it away? Because
I think it's an opportunity for them to discredit the Bible, because those people, that's their goal. I mean, if you look, their whole agenda is to tear down the word of Yah. I mean, those group of people who claim to be us, they do everything opposite the commandments. So they're not interested in being obedient and obeying the scriptures. I think the end goal for them will be, oh yeah, we're religious people. The world is religious, but hey, you can ignore the Bible now because look, Israel don't exist no more.
And then they can use that to usher in their one world government.
The one world government.
Yeah. And honestly, that would make sense for them to do it that way, because it's like, hey guys, you guys have been fighting over religion all these years. And now that land that you say is holy has been destroyed. Your God or your gods were not able to prevent it from being destroyed. So your faith is not valid. So listen, you've tried it your way. It didn't work. That land that you say is so precious has been destroyed.
So guess what? You might as well embrace Islam, Catholicism, and all other faiths, because they're all valid. That's where they want to go. And that gives them the opportunity to sell that. Well, look, it all failed. There's no Jerusalem anymore.
And here's the other thing, right? If you think about it, like Luciferianism is do without will. So basically anything goes. This is a cosmic religion. Everybody's the same. Everybody's equal. Israel don't matter. Everybody matters, right? As opposed to the uniqueness of the testimony of the patriarchs and the prophets, right? It's like it's the whole Star Trek idea. If you want to know where they want to go, just look at Star Trek and look at Captain Picard and them, right? That's what they're trying to do.
That makes sense to me. Honestly, all of that ties in perfectly with what you read with Albert Pike, and everything, like the one world system, the Antichrist, all of it ties in perfectly, because and maybe that's why they're doing it. Maybe that's why they're doing it now. Like you mentioned before, they started with Ukraine. We all know about Khazaria. Like you mentioned, Khazaria 2.0 in the other video. Now this, it's the perfect setup to usher in what they're trying to usher in. Is perfect. I mean, of course, it's wicked, it's evil, it's demonic, but from a logical standpoint and from a strategic standpoint, it is perfect.
And everything's in place to fulfill it during this time. I mean, it could happen again in the future, but I mean, right now it's like, if they don't take this opportunity to do it, it may not happen again, because they didn't have the whole lollipop thing, and they got people scared, and they got them all hooked up with the lollipops, and so they got this everything has changed. They got the alphabets, and the whole world is primed for the deception. They're gonna fall for the con. They're gonna fall for it. They so easily manipulated.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, thank you for your insight, brothers. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Brother Keith. So I like this, what Sister Ruhama said. There was a Captain Pike on stuff. Yeah, Captain Pike. Remember, Captain Pike was in a wheelchair and stuff like that. Yeah, that was probably representative of Albert Pike. I never even thought of that, but I think you're right about that. So, Minister Tayu, any final comment?
Well, like you said, I mean, this is a great opportunity for them to follow through with their agenda. And if they don't make it happen now, they may be set back a long time. And I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle when Israel is awoke, telling everybody who they are. You know, we're telling everyone, look, we're the true Israelites. How you going to take that away from us? Put us back into captivity? That's the only way, you know, is to somehow, you know, beat it out of us and make the next generation forget, but that's not going to happen. So this is their window of opportunity. Everything's global now. So they got to make their play. If they don't make their play, we get control. Like the scripture says, that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Right. And so I think everyone knows things are different right now. Things are different and things are going to go down within the next couple of months, if not weeks. That's all.
Thank you, Minister Tayu. Thank you for all those who came on to ask questions on the panel. So here's the thing. Whether or not you believe our view of eschatology, things have changed. And based upon what we've said before all of this has happened, remind you, you know, some of y'all don't know that we predicted a lot of these things before it happened. Okay, not like these people who Johnny come lately and want to tell you about end time prophecy. We were there beforehand and told you how we thought things would play out, right? And got a lot of heat for it. And guess what? It's playing out like we said. So look, let's sit and wait. I told you, get your popcorn ready, put your feet up, because things about to happen now. You know, hey, anything could happen. Maybe they're gonna go to a peace treaty and settle things down, and nothing's gonna happen. But that doesn't seem to be the plan. As we read from Albert Pike, and Mazzini, you know, everything is lining up for their Third World War. You know, you could call it coincidence if you want. You can ignore it if you want, but it seems to line up with the Most High's judgment on the nation. So Joel chapter 3 is happening. It's the vengeance of the Most High. He said, look, get your plowshares, turn them into swords. And I'm bringing y'all together to fight each other for what you did to my people. How y'all think that's supposed to play out? And especially for us to end up going to the land after that war, all lining up with Jeremiah 50:51. We're going to see. We're going to see who's correct. You know, I don't have to be right. I'm just saying, based upon what we see, this is how it appears to us, right? So, you know, a lot of people, they come up with their opinions, but you notice they don't give much scripture. And if they do give scripture, it's all out of context, right? So, you know, you got to make all scripture line up. You got to make Ezekiel align with Jeremiah, and Jeremiah to align with Isaiah, and Isaiah to align with Revelation. It all has to make sense, right? You can't be taking piecemeal and thinking, you know, hey, you got your doctrine right. So,
and until they do that like we did and make all of those prophetic scriptures line up and speak a narrative or a story, until they do that, I say question what they're telling you.
Exactly. So I want to thank y'all for listening. Also, I want to thank all our Patreon supporters and Cash App givers. We really appreciate the support. And if you want to give, you can give, you know, Cash App, $TOTW7101. You can also become a Patreon and support this ministry. And just think about it, you know, when it comes to the things, because as Brother Judah J said, God, who, you know, oh yeah, however you refer to the Most High, he works within our creation, and he allows things to happen organically, or what we will call organically, right? And so you can see these things forming into the fulfillment of the prophecies. And so I do expect something to happen probably soon, but, you know, hey, it's all relative. If it don't happen, hey, you have more time to repent. If it do happen, you ain't got no more time to repent. I told y'all, I told you Gentiles, I said, you ain't got no more time. You ain't got to listen to me. Just watch. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah.